Welcome to Finance in the Clouds. Modern finance is broken, forcing finance and accounting teams to work like it's 1985, the year Excel was invented. Here, we talk about the struggles finance teams face in fast-growing companies and discuss how they can spend less time catching up and more time in the clouds. I'm your host, Jake Jones, multimedia producer and brand influencer here at Zone & Co. And I'm joined this week by Elise Telechan, Director of NetSuite Delivery in the US, and Lisa Foote, NetSuite Optimization Consultant, both at Zone & Co. Glad to have you guys here today.
Happy to be here. I'm really excited.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
Twice a year, NetSuite launches updates for its users, and today we're going to be discussing NetSuite 2022.2 and talk about how you as end users can prepare for this update. So, Elise, Lisa, really great to have you both here today. You guys are NetSuite experts. I'm really excited to hear what you think about the update. But before we jump into that, I do want to give you guys just a second to kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves. So, Elise, why don't we start with you? What do you do for us here at Zone?
Yeah, I am the Director of NetSuite Delivery, US, as you stated. And what that means is I oversee the implementation and optimization teams for native NetSuite here at Zone. And I started with NetSuite back in 2013 as a user. And so I have really kind of come a long way from what I thought I knew about NetSuite. When I was a user, I knew it like the back of my hand. And I thought, I'm going to become an admin. And then I became an admin and I was like, oh, I don't know anything. And then I learned it like the back of my hand again. And then I became a consultant and I was like, oh yeah, I could do consulting. I know NetSuite like the back of my hand. And then got into consulting and was like, whoa, I don't know anything. And so because I've seen all these different phases of NetSuite, I've really come to love and appreciate and teach the things that would have saved my life back when I was a user. And I thought I knew NetSuite like the back of my hand, but it's so much bigger and more robust and amazing than I could ever have imagined.
Yeah. It's crazy how that happens with the back of our hands, right? They just suddenly, there's new spots we find all the time.
Bigger than you think.
We get better. Absolutely. Lisa, what about you? What do you do here for us at Zone?
So I'm in the optimization team under Elise, and I do customer support, basically optimizing their system. I've been working with NetSuite since about 2016, mostly as an end user admin. I came to Zone, 2 months ago. So I've been learning a lot, learning how other customers use the system. It's been really great, kind of just diving in and learning a whole bunch of new stuff.
Fun fact,
absolutely.
Lisa and I actually met at Sweet World in a Starbucks line and talked about how much we love NetSuite for 20 minutes. And that's how she ended up here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Was it 20 minutes in line or did you guys eventually break out?
It's Starbucks at Sweet World. You wait the 20 minutes because it's still Starbucks, but
you got to get your coffee. You got to get your
have to have coffee. Yes.
That's great. Well, I'm super excited to have you both and super excited to get into this topic, just kind of talking about some of the important changes that are coming with this new update. And so let's just kind of dive in. What are some of the big changes that admins, end users need to know about as they're kind of getting ready to be updated? So
there's a couple things, and Lisa, please do feel free to jump in where you feel it makes sense. One of the biggest things is improvements on financials, which makes sense, right? Because NetSuite is at its core a financial software. But there has been a couple great improvements specifically around functionality needed for nonprofit organizations, specifically because the reporting is so different from other companies. They've added a lot of different features specifically around time entry and all that other good stuff that has made reporting specific for nonprofits easier and more robust. I know that they've also made improvements around inventory planning. And I know, Lisa, you know inventory better than I do. So probably better for you to speak on it than me. So yeah.
Yeah, the big one that I'm interested in is the Smart Count. It's a suite app. It is a paid suite app, and it's managed, and it allows real time counting. So, the old days you'd have to stop all business. You can't bring inventory in. You can't push inventory out when you're doing an inventory count. And with Smart Count, you're able to do it live during business hours, and the system will alert the counter that quantities have changed because of a transaction. So it's really helpful for financial teams. It's really helpful for purchasing and warehouse people. So that one I'm really excited about. There are requirements behind it, but it's also cool because you can use your smartphone to do your count.
Yeah. And
That's smart. That's smart.
they also have something new called Item 360, which actually comes with dashboards around different dashboards that are built out around the inventory planning. And they have user selected KPIs and it's kind of all tied together with what you were just talking about as well, Lisa. And kind of in the same realm where you were saying you could do a lot of from your smartphone, they actually have updates on the mobile app, which has come also a very far way. I know that the mobile app was a thing back when I was still kind of dipping my toes in admin, and it's come a very long way. And specifically this update, they have made the experience for the list record, so kind of like navigation, to kind of use user talk, navigation is a lot easier and more streamlined in the app with this release, which is really exciting. I mean, especially with the day and age that we're in now, where
I was
everything's
just about to
at
say,
your fingertips. Yeah.
yeah, that's so convenient for a lot of people working from home now and traveling a lot. And that's a huge thing for us here at Zone with some of our apps of just being able to do something from your phone and be able to react quickly or have it automated, right?
Absolutely.
So that it moves around. So,
And there's a lot of individuals that work in the field and don't necessarily have access to a tablet or a PC or a laptop or something of that nature because you're out in the fields. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about the mobile updates. Another really great add-on into the release preview is they're really upping their CRM functionality. They actually now have a CRM add-on, which includes not only a suite app for the CRM, but also pre-built workbooks. And their suite analytic workbooks have actually come a really far way from when I first saw it when it was first released. I've seen it improve each time, and especially now because they're so new, not a lot of people necessarily are trained on them. But this new CRM app has pre-built workbooks that are focused on sales performance KPIs, dashboards. There's new roles that are in with it, pre-built roles, pre-built dashboards. So really upping their game in CRM, which is great because I think that, like I said, NetSuite at its core is a financial software and it does that great. And everything on top of that is almost like a bonus where they're continually trying to improve the system, and CRM is really starting to show like, hey, we can do this too. And I think that this new add-on really, really does that, right? It starts to put us and NetSuite in the CRM world. And so that's a pretty exciting suite app that is part of this release.
that's awesome. Yeah, that sounds super exciting. I mean, any kind of template that you can kind of work off of to help customize what you're trying to do. I mean, that's a huge plus. You don't have to figure out all of it, all the intricacies yourself. You can just kind of jump in and play around with the template. That's really exciting. So I do want to kind of circle back to the nonprofit section. That sounds awesome because I'm learning a lot about NetSuite now, and I certainly don't know it like the back of my hand like you guys do, or maybe the back of my pinky nail or something. That it seems like such an awesome thing for nonprofits to be able to take advantage of because there's so much you can do with an ERP as far as saving time, getting some automation set up and in. And for a nonprofit where you already don't have a lot of resources to be able to manage stuff easier and quicker in an ERP, that just sounds awesome. So really exciting stuff there.
Yeah, I will say that I've heard nonprofit organizations working with NetSuite. We actually have an employee that was an admin at a nonprofit organization here at Zone, and so they definitely can still use NetSuite. I think that the difference is that it's all around their reporting, primarily because for nonprofit organizations, they use an accounting method that focuses on accountability rather than profitability. And they have special reporting that basically you have to report on what is spent rather than how much profit is earned, specifically around resources, and like a specific time period and the purpose of what was done. And so that's where like all of this new reporting comes in. It provides capability to budget and report on revenue and expenses by account segments, programs, departments, grants, revenue type, all of that stuff that I think was maybe lacking a little bit before the preview that they've really improved on with this one.
Awesome. Any other major changes or kind of highlights from the update that you guys want to call out?
Not specifically that I want to call out. I know that there's also a lot of let's say that I want to call it in a podcast because there's a lot of like dry information, but a lot of crucial information. So there's updates to reporting, there's updates to taxes, there's updates to financial information that somebody might not necessarily want to listen to a podcast to talk about, but still really crucial, important things. I mean, what these releases are things that the NetSuite development team have been working really hard on for sometimes years to either solve bugs or to improve, and it's all based on enhancement requests from the users. And so there are really exciting things that look good on, on a screen, and then there are the important things, and both of them carry a lot of weight.
I did kind of want to talk about this because this was a conversation we had kind of off camera, Elise, about just how do these updates work. Initially, we were kind of like, when is this going to launch? And when, let's try to time this podcast with this. But you were kind of telling me it kind of rolls out in phases. So I was wondering if we could just kind of talk about that. Of when should people kind of expect to see updates like this start to roll through?
Absolutely. So it does happen in phases, exactly as you said. Customers are released at different times. If I'm being honest, I don't know what the cadence of that is or how they choose it or anything of that nature, but they do make that information available to all of their customers, primarily through, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but there's actually a portlet that can sit on your front page. And the first time you kind of notice it, will be out of nowhere. You can remove it, but then the next time that there's a new update, the system automatically adds it to your dashboard. So that's when you really see it coming, which I think is so smart on NetSuite's parts to be like, you don't have to manually add it. It adds it for you. And then you sign in and you're like, where's my reports? But it's like right there in your face, right? Like, hey, we're doing everything we can to prepare you for this. And in that portlet, there's a ton of information, including what phase you're in and when you are going to be actually updated so that you can help prepare, if they can help you prepare for this update.
Kind of along that same line of preparing for the update, a point of conversation we had too was, end users sometimes can miss these updates a little bit. It's communicated a lot, and NetSuite makes a big effort to, but sometimes it still slips through the cracks. But one thing we kind of talked about and wanted to do is talk about how can end users prepare for these updates. And so, Elise, you were kind of calling out a lot of really cool things that NetSuite does kind of in our initial conversation. So let's just kind of dive into that. What can end users do to prepare for this update?
Yeah, there's a couple technical things that you can do. The portlet is a really big one. It actually has a ton of links on there, and specifically around not only the release notes, which is a very, very long document. I know very long to get through, but good to skim through at the very least. And there's also different links that have articles to Suite Answers that tells all about everything. So that portlet's super crucial. And another big one is around the release preview, which I know that Lisa, you and I have spoken about this a lot. And I think that in our speaking, you've had a lot of really great points that I would love you to share around like not only the importance of requesting a release preview, but what you can do with it.
Yeah. So as a former admin in a company that had a lot of customizations to look after, releases were kind of daunting because anything could break. You don't know what's going to happen. So that release preview time is so important. It's basically giving you a free sandbox for a little while too. So there's many, many benefits to accessing the release preview. And the NetSuite portlet that we discussed has some information about how to do the release preview and how to do test planning and all of that. It outlines all of it for you and even gives you a spreadsheet. In the NetSuite release preview portlet, there's links to all kinds of things. There's 1 to videos and trainings. Click it. Go to it. There's a page in Suite Answers that has all kinds of videos for the new features, for add-ons, specific to 2022.2. That happens with every release. So, and they still have the ones from 2022.1. If you fell behind, go back and look at them. Watch them. The videos, you can learn a whole bunch of information about new features, upgrades to existing features. In that portlet, click all the buttons. Read all the stuff. It doesn't hurt. So when you get your release preview, it's really, really beneficial to go through and test your processes, document your processes, test them in the system. Most super users of NetSuite are not software developers. They don't have a strong IT background. They're accountants. They're people that just kind of took the time to learn it from a different department. So, that it's something that comes with time to learn how to do that test plan. So if you build your test plan small to start, work through it, test your big processes, run a PO through the system in the release preview. Make sure if you have fields that should automatically fill out, they're filling out. That's very, very important. And then, like I said, it's kind of like a free sandbox. Once you've done your testing and you know your processes work, turn on new features. Go in and, if you've been eyeing a feature that you're scared to turn on in your sandbox or in production, turn it on in the release preview. Even if you break it, it's a temporary thing. As long as you've done your testing, you're good. So, it's a big thing to do the release preview. It was always a huge part of my process. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a great feature to call out. It's really cool that NetSuite allows that to happen, because I think that's the big thing with updates of any kind. Obviously our phones, we get updated all the time, and sometimes it's annoying, right? I hear my mom all the time tells me, like, why is my phone doing this new thing with this update? But it's crucial. There's a lot of really cool updates that happen in these sort of things that could make your processes easier, better. Again, even calling out the nonprofit again, it's like you may not could have used NetSuite because of how your financials had to be run. But now this is a whole new thing available to you. So it's really cool that they give you that opportunity to test it. And like you said, kind of play with it a little bit and make sure it all works for you, because it could unlock all sorts of new potentials for how you're managing your business in there.
I want to really kind of emphasize what the release preview is, right? So what is a release preview? It is exactly like Lisa said. It's like a sandbox. And for those, if you don't have a sandbox, it's a test environment where essentially you request a release preview through the system. You actually would, if you're an admin, would go to setup, company, and then scroll all the way down. There's actually just a menu called release preview. And when you click on that, you can just request it. Again, you have to have the permissions, most likely an admin. And what that does is it takes a copy of your current production and then it upgrades it to the newest release. And then you can log into it. So in your NetSuite instance, when you hover over your name at the top right, you'll see your instance and then the letters RP, so release preview, to where you can log into it and exactly like Lisa said, do all these different tests. And so I want to kind of emphasize on, I know that Lisa, you had mentioned like things can break. And a lot of the reason for that is one of the best things about NetSuite is the customization you can do in the system allows you to create workarounds. If the system doesn't do something that is already developed that you need it to do, you have the ability to build the system up to do what you need it to do. But then we have these release previews that maybe now have that functionality, right? That allows you to do these things because it was an enhancement request, and maybe something might break because you have customization around that. Another huge thing that the system does, or that NetSuite does, I should say, is they'll send out emails through the time of preparing for release preview that might say, we're making some big updates to this specific page, or this specific module. Be aware, if something's going to be deprecated, be aware you can't use this after a certain date. But they do give a lot of time for you to prepare for that. So that's the biggest thing. It's just being cognizant of what NetSuite is trying to provide us, and being cognizant of the updates and all the letters and all that other good stuff. But to Lisa's point, when you're a user, you don't get copied on those emails, because typically it goes to admins. I mean, NetSuite doesn't want to flood everyone's inbox because it is a lot of data. But you still have the power as a user to be prepared, even if you're not necessarily an admin getting those emails.
Yeah. Well, and that's awesome. It's super important to take the time and to test it out while you can. And obviously, I think that's a smart thing too, with how this system gets rolled out. These updates get rolled out over time and kind of slowly gets worked in. So that's really great. And NetSuite does this usually twice a year, right? That they get an update. And has that been pretty routine throughout their lifetime so far?
Yep. I mean, as long as I've been using NetSuite, yeah, I've noticed it. Now, I was that user that wasn't aware of it. I was that user that every single time that Portlet popped up, I'm like, this again, and like removed it, not even realizing what I was removing, like not even realizing that a month and a half later, I'm complaining that I don't know why things look different when like I deleted that. I didn't read. It's kind of like when you have a warning pop-up box. If you see it too many times, you're just going to keep clicking okay. Like
just push that down the road.
I am a director, and I still, when I get in to help customers with stuff, will hit okay and be like, what did that say? Don't be me. Don't do what I do.
Yes. Take the time.
Take advantage of the tools that are given to you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And another thing with the, end user stuff is, as an admin, don't be afraid to send out alerts that a new release is happening. And once you get a date, send a reminder to people. This is when it's happening. Don't log into NetSuite during these times. And then just, as an admin, once your window is over for the release, log in and just make sure things are working properly. I had that as an end user where I logged in and we had the projects set up and they didn't work. You couldn't access a project record. So we had to open a case with NetSuite. And so I found that out before the end user for the rest of our team. So that was good because it was proactive. That's really a big thing, is just be proactive with the releases. Read the data, watch the little videos, do a test plan. Just, if you take the time up front, it really helps in the end. And you can also, in the release preview, open cases. So if you find something wrong, open a case with NetSuite. And that way they can maybe have it fixed before they release the actual release to your account.
That's great. That's great tips. And you bring up an excellent question, and this, you may have fully answered it there, but I'll ask it anyway. We've talked about how end users can prepare, but how can admins prepare to, I guess, really prepare their end users? And you mentioned a lot of great points there of be proactive and all that, but is there anything else that comes to mind of how an admin could prepare for the update themselves, but then also prepare their team?
Read the release notes. And if there's something that is, affecting a module you have that will affect certain users, give them a heads up or send them a link to the video to watch. The more information your end users have, the better. It's always better to be overeducated than undereducated when it comes to NetSuite. Well, pretty much anyway.
And you can give access to individuals too. So the release preview isn't only available to admins. Just like a sandbox, you can actually give individuals access. So if the update, or if the, each release has been a struggle for you because maybe you have a lot of customizations, then put together who are the core group of people that I need to be testing and preparing before we have these, and make sure that as soon as you have the release preview, you're giving these people access, right? And saying, can you hop in and test your processes, test bank reconciliation, test doing payment runs, test all this stuff that are really going to be the crucial part of your business, because there may be some tweaks here and there that are issues and you can get workarounds, but you do have the access to give access to the release preview to users as well.
Elise, Lisa, we've had a great conversation today about the updates coming to NetSuite 2022.2. A lot of great conversations about how this is going to improve workflow for nonprofits, a lot of updates to CRM, just really great topics and exciting updates, but also how end users can be prepared, how they can use the training portlet and watch these videos and be prepared and use a sandbox environment to really test out these new updates. So really exciting. Thank you both for sharing your expertise today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Honestly, it's hard for me to limit how much I talk about NetSuite because I could talk about it forever, but I was excited to come here and talk about it in a short fashion, if you will.
Well, yep. I hope, obviously there's a NetSuite update every half of the year, right? 2 updates a year. So we may be having you back on to talk more updates later.
I would be happy to join.
And same to you, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. And, parting words, test. Take advantage of the resources. Get your preview, play with it. It's fun. Make it fun. I always have fun with it. It's NetSuite.
Make it fun. That's right. If we can make work fun,
yeah,
we're going to be doing great. So that's awesome. Now we want to hear from you. How are you preparing for the next NetSuite update? Let us know by emailing hello@zoneandco.com. Finance in the Clouds now posts bi-weekly on Fridays. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to Finance in the Clouds wherever you get your podcasts, or watch us on YouTube on the Zone & Co YouTube channel. And we'll see you next time. Bye.